Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Savannah Peterson, and I am joined with Portainer CEO Neil Creswell here today, coming to you from San Francisco with a bit of an overview of what's next and what's going on and what's new with Portainer. Neil, thank you so much for being here. Are you enjoying your time in San Francisco?
I am. I love San Francisco. I love it. So much to see, so much to do.
Good. You feeling like a proper Silicon Valley company now?
Getting there.
Yeah.
Getting there.
I love that.
It's a long way from here to New Zealand, that's for sure.
Yes, and you've been a trooper the last few years, balancing that gap with the time zone and the date line, so we commend you for that. But it is great to have you on this side of the Pacific. Today we're going to be talking a lot about where we're at currently and where we see trends in the market and the future of a lot of different industries that we're touching at Portainer. And we're lucky to have Neil to guide us through that. To get us warmed up, Neil, talking about moving from the data center to the edge, what are you seeing?
Seeing a lot, actually. The whole move from data center to edge has initially been kicked off, I think, from telco edge. So how do we move applications closer to the user on a network perspective? So how do we bring things like web services, how do we bring things like data ingest closer to the user on a network perspective? That was the first iteration of edge. The second iteration of edge is now, well, how do we actually get devices closer to machines, collecting data, making changes to systems, SCADA type systems. How do we get that as well? So you've got multi-generational of edge. So you've got let's get applications close to users on a network. Let's get devices close to data sensors. Those two edge things are what we're seeing a lot of now.
And how is Portainer supporting those in the journey between data center to edge?
So for Portainer, all we really care about is that the application runs in a container. We don't actually care where it runs, what orchestrator it runs on. We don't care. From day one, we've always been a system to run applications in containers. That's it. So moving from data center to network edge for us is really quite trivial. It's simply a data center over there, not here. Once you get into the device layer, though, there are quite a few more complications. The devices are far more resource constrained. They're almost always in networks that are heavily disconnected or expensive, and there are some uniquenesses. Because of our background in Docker, and Docker is quite attuned to running on resource-constrained environments, we're actually really well positioned to manage these remote IoT-based devices running some kind of orchestration. So taking an application, running in the data center, running at network edge, and running in a device, for us, easy.
Love that. And this is something that we're really committed to in the future, right? We see this as a growing space.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more interest in IoT, industrial IoT, which is where people are trying to take traditional SCADA systems, which are very proprietary, expensive control systems, and opening them up to IoT. And we're really, really focused on expanding our capabilities into that space because it really is an untapped market. And going from proprietary to open standards lets the users of this IoT start to write their own applications and visualize data and visualize metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited about it, and it's great to see us developing in this space. We are in the wild, so if you see me pause just briefly, it's only so that loud sounds happening on the street can pass. We appreciate your patience. Wanted to give you that real in the heart of San Francisco feel. We know a lot of you haven't had a chance to travel as much as we would like to over the last few years, so hopefully we are immersing you. You mentioned Docker and Kube in that last answer, and we know this is something that comes up for Portainer a lot. We have a very large community in both spaces. Where are we now?
Wow, it varies day by day. So we still have a very, very strong footprint in Docker, and interestingly enough, and this still surprises me, we still see net new deployments of both Docker and Docker Swarm month on month. That surprises me. Now, obviously, outpacing growth is our Kubernetes traction. So we're getting more and more users each month coming into Portainer and using us to manage Kubernetes, which is exactly what I want to have happen. It still surprises me, as I said, that Swarm adoption still keeps growing. You would have thought with all of the media that Swarm's dead, long live Kubernetes, that it would be dying off, but it still seems, double-digit growth month on month is staggering still.
My interpretation of this is that people are still using both for different things. Who should use what when?
So Docker is great if you're resource constrained or if you just want to get your application running. So if you're a developer and you're actually developing a new machine and you're writing real life code changes and you want to see what does my change look like in reality, Docker's perfect for that. It's really fast. You can spin up environments. Devs can do it in their machine with VS Code or whatever. Spin up an environment and see it live. Iterate their changes, push it through. Kubernetes is obviously a production thing, so it has a lot of overhead, a lot of operational control and management and governance. That's required for prod. It's not necessarily desired for highly transient development environments. So we see a mix of Docker for a developer, Kubernetes and prod, and we're seeing a lot of Docker at the edge as well.
Yeah, so really hybrid.
Really hybrid.
Do you think that's what it's going to be like for a while?
I think so. I think with the resource overhead of Kubernetes and the operational overhead still being where it is, running it on a dev machine is quite a challenging one to live with. Like on my own machine, just to idle Kubernetes is about 6 gig of RAM to have the thing just sitting there. So it's quite inefficient from an actual dev perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about ClickOps to GitOps. What trends are you seeing there? It's been a hot topic at the office lately.
It's interesting because ClickOps, which is simply managing through a UI, that's historically how people managed infrastructure. And then we went on this journey and said everything should be as code, infrastructure is code, everything is code. And so all of a sudden, anything that was in a UI was kind of shunned, and you needed to be doing everything as code. Well, that's cool if you know how to write code, and you're comfortable writing and then maintaining the code forever, because code is never static, it always changes. Infrastructure is never static, it always changes, so you're always adjusting things, the code to accommodate the change. And it's like, well, hang on a second, now as you start to widen the spread of the technology and get into the mainstream, not everyone can write this code. So now there's a trend to say, well, actually let's use ClickOps to create the code. Once the code's created, then we can modify the code from that point on to keep it up to date. So that's kind of where we're going inside Portainer as well. Let's use our rich immersive UI to help you build the code for the first time, and then you can maintain the code directly from then on in a GitOps style model.
Yeah, and you think this is going to help accelerate team agility and ability to do things faster?
Oh, absolutely. If the only way that you can get started with everything as code is to no code, you've now just wiped out I don't know how many millions of citizen developers. These are the non-professional developers or web devs. You've just written off all these guys. That's not good. So to have this capability across the board, it needs to be simple for everyone to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does Portainer fit into that?
Well, right now we're in the transition phase from being a true ClickOps UI where you actually click and deploy, and a GitOps engine where you have code and deploy. We're in the middle of transitioning, so you've got the ability to create with Portainer, save as code, schedule that code to run as a GitOps instance, and then deploy. So that's something to expect in the next 3 months.
Nice. Yeah, some more to come in the space. Watch the space, y'all. Let's talk about our community edition. A lot of people find us through that as a gateway or are using us at home before they realize the advantages of Portainer Business in production. What's the impact of that shift for a user?
Well, so Community Edition has always been designed to be used by a person, a developer, my team, maybe 2 teams together. That was kind of its sweet spot. Where it kind of fell down was, well, now it's used across multiple teams or it's used across my organization. How do we get better auditing and controls and governance? How do we have centralized security, centralized access control, all of the RBAC fundamentals? How do we get that going? And adding that into the community version would simply annoy those who just want to get it running. So I just want it running on my machine. I don't want the burden of all this other complexity. So that's why we had the two different variants. One is really focused on just get it running now, and one which is focused on let's get it running in my corporate with all of my corporate policies and principles and have it in here. So the CE edition is really, really focused, and we're still investing really heavily adding features to make me as a person or my team way more efficient. That's where we're focused.
Yeah, so if I'm just learning about Portainer through this video, it's all about team size, really. If I'm trying to do things in production at scale, business, no questions asked.
Yeah, I say if you have a CIO and a CISO, you will probably need Portainer Business, because the moment the CIO or CISO finds out they're using the CE version without any kind of audit controls or RBAC, the old everyone is an admin principle, you're likely to be told to get it out or replace it with something that actually is far more robust and resilient. And that's where our business version comes in. It has all those controls that a CIO or CISO needs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic and incredibly useful. It is a very exciting time at Portainer. What has you personally as CEO most excited right now?
So right now it's our upcoming GitOps capabilities. So we've really struggled in the past to say, well, how do we transition from being this really immersive UI, ClickOpsy type UI, how do we transition from that into a mode of automation? And moving to a fully automated GitOps type environment, it's quite challenging. We looked at the other GitOps platforms on the market, and we were trying to figure out how can we integrate with them, how can we make deploying them and using them easier? And the answer was we couldn't. They're simply too feature rich to get started with in a really easy way. They all require to be installed in cluster, maintained in cluster. They have to have the right versions that match the right Kubernetes versions. There were too many dependencies, too many complications. So we said, well, let's go find the 20 most common features used across all these platforms, and let's embed those in Portainer.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We said, well, 80% of people would only ever use these 20 features. 80% is pretty awesome as far as we're concerned. That's really going to help us get mainstream adoption. Let's put those features in Portainer and get cracking.
Yeah, absolutely. Gets me excited too, and hopefully gets our community equally excited. What's next? Can you give us any preview?
Well, as I said before, lots and lots of focus around IIoT and bringing better device management to the edge. We've got that work we recently completed with Intel around zero-touch device onboarding and lights out device management. So extending that even further now to better support very, very sparsely connected devices and very, very resource-constrained devices. So that kind of stuff is up and coming. We're also really bolstering a lot of our core foundational capabilities as well. So we spent a bit of time going through and saying, well, let's understand each of the user types that use the product. What are the 4 or 5 core features each of those user types use? Let's make sure those 4 or 5 features are absolutely bulletproof. Make sure that we haven't actually regressed any capability as we've added features moving forward. Make sure that they're super reliable. Make sure that they're 100% product market fit for those features. Let's make sure those things are rock solid. And so we're spending the next 3 months at least making sure we've got all of those foundations squeaky clean before we do the next iteration of features, which is all around now making management, monitoring, alerting far more accessible as well.
Why should people learn Portainer? Why are we a partner for the long term?
Just because we make things so easy. the actual learning curve for Portainer is incredibly short. It really is.
Yeah.
It just works out of the box. It just works. You don't actually have to learn too much. I mean, if you come into Portainer with no prior experience to containers, you're going to have a bit of a steep learning curve. It's very different from a VM type environment. But if you already know the fundamentals of Docker, Portainer will feel natural to you. So yes, of course, you have to understand the flow, but we've worked really, really hard to make the flow as intuitive as possible. So it really is follow your nose simplicity. And if you're embracing Kubernetes or Docker at scale, you have a learning curve ahead of you. Make no mistake, no one can convince me otherwise. There is a huge learning curve.
For me, for that matter.
With Portainer, we want to lower that learning curve and make it much, much quicker as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that in our partnership with Intel, we're all about humanizing the experience. We're all about making it more intuitive. A lot of shared vision and mission around truly making the user experience a smooth one, so that we can build and create and deploy and do whatever we want, which is absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw in one closing question that I wasn't thinking about until we started chatting, but gets me really excited. I don't know if you've noticed if you're on the job hunt on LinkedIn, but we've been seeing Portainer as a skill that companies are hiring for. How does that make you feel seeing that?
It's pretty cool, especially when you see the brands that are actually using Portainer. One of the things with our Portainer CE, it's completely anonymous. We have no idea who's using it. Yeah, we know roughly how many people are using it. Who actually is using it? No idea. So to see big brand names come up and actually requesting people apply for jobs with skills in Portainer, that's pretty awesome. It lets me start to connect A and B to say, okay, now we know we're actually used in very large corporates. This is not just a home user thing, it's a large corporate tool as well. So I really like that.
Yeah, it's exciting for all of us to see and makes it feel like we're really having a much broader impact. So congratulations on that, and very exciting. Neil, for folks who are just so inspired after listening to this, what's the best way for them to say hello and learn more?
So always start with our website, and on the website there is a link out to all of our community channels. So Reddit and Slack and Discord are our 3 primary community channels, but we're always available on email as well. So there is a contact us form on the website, drop us a line and we'll always respond.
Can they tweet you or find you on LinkedIn?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also the person often behind the Portainer Twitter thread. As much as people want to remove my fingers off our own Twitter channel, that's not going to happen. So often you'll see me responding and answering deeply technical questions on Twitter because I can't help myself.
Yes, this also means that Neil unfortunately sees everything that I tweet. So you can go ahead and find him behind Portainer.io. Neil Creswell, thank you so much for your insights today. It is always an honor to get to share thoughts and share your future predictions and your trend watching, and what a joy to be around the Portainer community. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We appreciate your subscribe, your follow, your questions, your positive vibes, whatever it is you want to give us today. My name is Savannah Peterson, and it has been a treat. We hope you and yours are staying safe.